So we're going to be taking a look at that as well. And as you have questions or as things come up for you, do let me know. You can actually go ahead and ask questions in the question area, and I'll take them as needed at the end. Okay? All right, so what we're going to be looking at right now is the slide deck. There is a copy of the slide deck that I will be giving to you at gettalk.at/GBNT. You're welcome to download that. And if you have any other questions aside from that, I have some information on how to get a hold of me after the seminar or after the webinar today, because it may be that one of the things that you find in your business and after the webinar is that things may come together a little bit more. You'll have time to go over and review the information, and you may have questions on what that looks like. So a little bit about me. I've been a technology trainer for the past 20 years, and specifically in Web 2.0, what we now know as social media, since about 2006, 2007. When we're looking at the way businesses are marketing, they haven't really gotten on board until a couple of years after that. And even still, I find in the groups that I'm talking to, I find there's still a way to go, or a ways to go. And you have to understand that wherever you are in the process, if you're really active on social media and you're really doing a great job on digital marketing, fantastic. If you have a presence online but you are just looking to see what places you can do more with or optimize better, fantastic. If you are one of those businesses or business owners or individuals that don't know what they don't know, or that they're just getting started, even better. And here's the reason why. I get a lot of people that are frustrated because they feel like they should have been doing this all along. And the great thing about where you're starting is you didn't have to unlearn any of the things, any of the new, or I should say now, older things that we have to reprogram or reassess or re-educate ourselves in, because things have been updated, or actually really great stuff has gone away, as tech tends to do from time to time. So here's what we know. We know overall that we have about 1.6 billion users right now on Facebook. We have 1.4 billion using YouTube. We have 400 million active monthly users on Instagram and LinkedIn, and a little bit less on Twitter and Pinterest. So if we were going to look at top social media sites, we're looking at sort of the top 6, and there's actually probably top 8 depending on where you are in the world. So I'm asking you, where do your clients reside? Where do those business connections reside? What does that look like for you? And what's interesting is that when we're looking at social networking in general in the air world, we're looking at the same genre or the same area, but we're also looking at, surprisingly, a number of Google Plus users, which is really interesting. So from place to place that I look at, this changes. So 94% of users typically are using Facebook. We have almost half that, less than half that, on Twitter and Google Plus. And then out here in what I call outliers, we're utilizing Instagram and LinkedIn. So that's as of 2013. This has shifted a little bit. We know that individual accounts on social media, everybody has ideally 7. That's actually a little bit better than it is in other places. And you're ranked 7th globally. We also know that on Twitter, it's the 5th most visited website, and you tweet ideally 5 times a day, which is extremely active. But if we're looking at our online presence for our business. Does it support where our clients and prospects reside? Are the presence that we have on social media, is it optimized? Meaning, is it fully vetted or engaged or written out so that on every platform, visitors, clients, prospects know how to find you? And are you managing that presence effectively? Meaning having a consistent post or having consistent content over time. So if we're looking at industry, if we're looking at our business and our industry, if we have more visuals, visual information that we can convey visually, we're looking at things like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and even Google+. Twitter is great right now because a lot of people use it, but WhatsApp is also, I don't necessarily consider it a social media channel, but not necessarily a social media platform. So it is great mode of communication, and it's a great messaging tool. LinkedIn is not as well known, and it can be very, very powerful in the way that you can convey not only your own business profile, but a company profile, as well as what we call showcase pages. And those are pages that allow you to showcase your product, service, or division. So when we're looking at our business focus, we want to tune in and hone in on where we're going to reside online, what is being said about us, kind of managing it all, but we have to establish some kind of baseline. And in order to do that, we need a bit of what I call a 30,000-foot view. So at the end of a day or the end of the time, what do you want to, what kind of thumbprint or footprint, what kind of legacy is this kind of media going to convey? Now, it may be a little bit of shift in thinking, but we have really great information that we can share with our audiences. We have really good information about our products and services that we can talk about, and we need to do it in a way that makes sense and that doesn't come off as, I'm going to say my term is salesy. So in order to do that, we're looking at doing a litmus test, this kind of real-time data. So most of us utilize, whether it's Google, Bing, Yahoo, HotFrog, Best of Web, for typical searches, and you may have a particular one. We're looking at going through and searching social media. So in searching social media, whether it's blogs, social media channels themselves, we want to find out, we can do a couple of things with this. Number one, social mention on the screen is a great place that I can look up my business name, my brand. I can also look up competitors. I can look up at what other businesses are doing. I can look up any mention on social media that I'm interested in seeing. So when I search, I'm going to be searching using quotes around the words. And I'm going to search within social media as I would search at a Google search, because I want to see what's out there. And if there's nothing out there on my business or brand, that's okay. We just want to establish kind of where the baseline is. So social mention gives us a positive, negative, or neutral sentiment on whatever we're searching. It will also give us a virability, which simply means that if the results come back and it is about us or our business or a brand name or a competitor's name, we obviously need to make sure that it mentions it appropriately, because it may take other information into account. But we want to make sure that people are also viewing what we're looking at, that the virability, meaning that the information is being shared or commented on or talked about or retweeted, repurposed in some way. Another site is social-searcher.com, and this allows us also to search in social media. what's interesting about this one is the results. So I give you more than one simply because you're going to find a little bit different information. You might prefer one over the other, and you've got to do what works best for you and your company. So in order to establish that baseline, there are two things that I recommend. When we're looking for mentions of our business or brand, or mentions of a competitor or an industry or an influencer, we can establish Google Alerts. And the alternative to Google Alerts, one of the alternatives is talkwalker.com. This is great because it can push information into an email in your inbox and provide you with whatever search terms you're looking for. So keep in mind, just like searching on the web, if I establish a term or a query, I'm looking at it utilizing Boolean logic, and that's the and I should say and or not but words. So it could be, as an example, George Washington, not Carver, George Washington, not University, as examples of how I would search and what would come up for me. So I want to be very specific in what I'm looking for. And I can set up multiple alerts depending on what I'm looking at or what kind of research I'm doing. So once we have that, we're looking to ensure our brand. One of the ways that we're looking to do that is simply by making sure that the online name that we have, that what I call the vanity URL, is present, is consistent, is named appropriately across social media platforms. Now, what I'm not saying here is that you have to have a presence on every social media platform. I think that would be a giant waste of your time, energy, effort, and talent. What I am saying is, regardless of where you are in your social media right now, you can always build. So for you, it might be a particular phase 1 or phase 2 or another at phase 3 moving forward. So if I'm focused on maybe 2 or 3 platforms for my business, but I want to expand pretty quickly, I want to make sure that my username is consistent all the way across the board so I can be found easily. What that looks like, as an example, is my business name is Virtual Options. So on Twitter, I'm twitter.com/virtual options. On Facebook, I'm facebook.com/virtual options. That's what we name as a vanity URL. So when you put your username in here, it will show you if it's taken or if it's available. And it just may be that you have it already, but as you check it out, and you'll see a newer version of NameCheck when you go on, take a look at your top 5 or 6 that you want to be on and make sure that you have them designated, even though you might not be posting on them right now. So the next time, or the next part, is looking at branding our business. What I'd like you to consider is your presence on social media is an extension of your business as much as your business presence is an extension of your business. So although we have personal profiles on Facebook, and we may tweet, and we may have a YouTube channel, or we may record things on Facebook live stream, that all, one isn't from the other. So keep that in mind when we're looking at who we are for the people we serve. Who we are for the people, who are you for the people that you serve when in business, when you're there to talk to, inform, and educate your clients and prospects? And does our online presence reflect this? Are people able to find us? Are they able to follow us? Are they able to, is it easy for them to ask questions or to relate information to us? When we look at where we are in a process, we may be that we're just building visibility. And the things and the tools that I've given you so far will help you in that positioning. So when I'm building visibility, I'm looking at building out an online presence. I'm looking at making sure that what I have online reflects the information that's needed. I know that the website that I have is the breadth, depth, and width of information, and we'll take a look at what that may look like. And then I'm looking and moving towards establishing credibility. So credibility, the same credibility that you have offline in meetings and networks and businesses that you're providing online. We're just making sure the transition is smooth and the same types of information is there. We want to be able to focus and hone in that information, and we want to leverage that information so that when you're out managing your business or building the business or building those relationships, you have the ability to have social media or have your social presence running in the background for you. And then finally is platform. When you're building that out, that digital leadership, you're building out your influence and your authority in your field, in your industry, so that you're not one of many that do what you do, but you are the person positioned online appropriately so that people come to you with their questions, and you may even have already people in your own industry coming to you for questions and wanting mentorship. So this, you may be falling in a couple different phases or aspects of these things, or you may see your business or brand in one of these specific areas. So when I look at, I call this as an example, digital embassies and outposts. And the reason why is this, that our website is the breadth, depth, and width of information. We've got people that are looking for us or that are looking for the products and services that we provide. We need to be found online, and they're going to be looking at Google, or they're going to be looking on websites to look at our reputation, kind of what's being said about us, whether that is positive, negative, or neutral. So that's our home, like our home country in a way, in the digital space. But if I look at major social networks, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, I'm looking at what I call my digital embassies. These places are our residences online that also have our logo, they have our email, website, phone number, they have our, basically our branding that's on rented space versus what we own in our website. But it is a way that they can get a hold of us. And all of those areas, all of those embassies drive traffic and drive interest and hopefully a call to action to have them do something. So whether you want them to pick up the phone or email you or request a meeting, whatever that is for your business or brand, those places, those digital embassies are there to reflect your business just as well as your website. And those places also show up when people are searching for you online. The reason why I think LinkedIn is just as important as a Facebook presence for business or even Google Plus is because LinkedIn is indexed by Google. So when you have a LinkedIn profile, a company profile, I think that can really give you that prominence, that other relevance as well. We know that after Google, YouTube is the #2 search, quote, search engine. So even if you don't have a presence on YouTube, it might be interesting to provide a channel and take a look at what you can show, even if it isn't your content initially, what you can show that would help your clients and prospects. I put other things up here because I think it's important. Pinterest is a really, really great driver of traffic to websites. SlideShare is a really wonderful acquisition that LinkedIn had about 4 years ago, and it is a wonderful place that if you have marketing collateral or PDFs, excuse me, documents, anything like that, you can put that up on SlideShare, and it's another way to showcase your information, and it's another way that people can vet you. Because frequently, they're going to, just like we have for third-party testimonials, they're going to ask other people or look at other people's information or what they say about you over sometimes what you say about yourself or your business or your brand. So how do we do this? How do we actually get that ball rolling? We want to start small. I've given you places that you can audit your business in securing your name. So socialmention.com was one of them. Namecheck was another one, that NAMECHK. This allows us to establish a presence. So what we're going to be looking at right now is how do we start building that? How do we create the content that allows us to share effectively what we do? And then doing it again and again over time, being very consistent, being engaged in our social media is what is going to provide our authority online and our influence online. Because here's what we know. Perception is reality, facts notwithstanding. And we see this over time, in all times, whether we're online, whether we're offline, looking at news or what's happening around us. So perception is reality, facts notwithstanding. And what's wonderful about social media, for as much as it can provide and divide us, it can also give us the way to publish our information without having to go through any filter. And what I mean by that is it's not going through a journalist, or it's not necessarily going through media, traditional media. It is, we get to say what it is about our business and our products and services for our clients and prospects. So when we look at this, we're looking at content and choosing what works for our business and industry. Now, a word about that. And this is going to be probably the most important thing I want you to understand and take away from this webinar. Because at the end of the day, social media, these are tools, and they can be really great and really effective tools. But what we share is so much more important. The tools are simply the vehicle. What are we here to do? What are we here to convey? So think about this. Your body of wisdom, your years of experience, your philosophy, your approach, your lens, all of that creates a lens upon which you have either worked in a business, built a business, provided a brand, created a brand, and you're here to do a couple things for that business. Is it to inform an audience or educate them? If it is, we'll find that an educated, informed audience about your products and services make really great business and brand ambassadors for you. Are you empowering them? Are you there to empower or advocate or entertain or inspire? Is your company culture one that entertains or inspires? It may be, it may not be. It depends. It may be a lot of these things, it may be a couple of these things, or you may be woven on that. So one of the things to consider is that your role as business owner or business person, your role as what you do outside to, maybe you have volunteer work, maybe you have a passion for music, maybe you have a passion for cars or something else. All of that with your of wisdom, years of experience, education. That creates, if you intersected all of those areas, right in the middle of that creates your platform. So if you are a CEO, that looks different than if you are head of marketing or chief financial officer. There's still a lens there. There's still something to talk about. There's some kind of content to create from that. But I want you to understand that all of this works together because this is your platform for how you're going to create the information that you need for your clients and prospects. And your strategic partners as well. Don't forget that a lot of what we can do is in partnership with other businesses that are aligned with what we do. So let's take a look at the types and kinds of content. And here are a few. There's many, whether it be case studies and white papers and things like that you can do. It just depends on your industry. So I'm giving very general types of content here. So we're looking at whether it would be stock photos or Instagram photos, whether it would be video on YouTube or Vimeo, Wistia is another one, whether it's infographics or audio, podcast, articles, graphics, presentations, and screenshots. These are all different types of content. Now we know in articles, I'm going to talk a little bit about articles, and I'll talk a little bit about photos because I think it's important and I think there's very easy ways to create content. Now, speaking of content, there is what I call curated content and created content. So let's go with what people do most, right? So most businesses, most individuals curate content. And you do this personally. If you're on social media, something like Facebook, and you find some post that you like or video or a funny picture of something and you want to share it, you can share it. And that's curated content. You have literally found something and then you're putting it back out there on social media. So curated content in a business sense simply means that those articles, blogs, websites, news sites that are in your industry or that have associated what I call strategic other industries, those items or those areas you're going to curate or pull information from and put it into your social media when it's appropriate. So if I'm running a factory on mechanical parts, I'm not necessarily going to be posting anything about beauty or fashion. It just doesn't make any sense. So aligned with obviously your business or industry, you're going to post appropriate. When we look at, and that's called curating content. So as you pull in RSS feeds or syndicated feeds from blogs, websites, news sites, you can select those articles that make sense for your social media and put that in so that your social media management system can syndicate or push that out at appropriate times. Or you can actually do it and manage it yourself. I always say there's apps for that your job is not to post on social media, but we will get to that. So let's look at content examples. So content examples are quick ways to build content that makes sense. As an example, if you're in the fitness industry, it's really interesting because it seems that content obviously is universal. We all have particular fitness goals, and easy imagery around that is about food, health, and nutrition. So when we can create visual content, we can share that on Twitter, we can share that on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. When we're looking at more facts, figures, statistics around in our business, we can utilize graphics, convey it visually, do the same thing. We can use it as an infographic. If we have, and when I mentioned to you before about your body of wisdom and years of experience, I suspect that some of you, if not all of you, have what I call frequently asked questions. Those questions that your clients and prospects ask you all the time that you have some answer for, and they ask it over and over again, right? Something about the business, something about the industry, something about how you do what you do. Those quotables, what I call quotables, can be made into content. And it's very easy, and it's very easy to create. And all of those things start becoming part of your resource library. It starts becoming things that you can, what I call evergreen content, or things that they can be used over and over again, whether it's monthly or quarterly or yearly. Over a period of time, you're going to generate a lot of this kind of content. So let's take a look at some of the other types of content that we can create. If you're using visual content, or whether you're using articles, we know that articles will last longer. They're indexed better on search engines, although videos are coming up much higher, especially when we're doing live streaming on Facebook. But what we're looking at right now, as an example, is this was an article that was pulled out of, I believe it was the Saudi Gazette. So when I'm looking at this article gets posted. It is on their page. It is published in print. And maybe I want to repurpose or remarket this information because it's good information. It talks about ebooks and healthy ideas. Well, if I post it one time, great. I can tweet it out. I can put it on Facebook. I can, take one of these pictures or both these pictures and make Instagram posts out of it. Wonderful. But I can also take all of these subtitles, which I've outlined a few of them in purple, and I can create a post out of those subtitles and refer back to the article. So now one mention of an article now becomes 6 mentions of an article. If I added the 2 photographs with a link back to this article, it is now 8 pieces of content. So one article can create, again, 8 pieces of content, which drives more traffic to this particular piece of information. And if we set up our information correctly in a way that maximizes our effect and our impact, then I can, if I had an article that had facts, figures, and statistics within it, that's chunky, really great information, I can take each of those facts as an individual tweet and refer back to this article again. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a tweet. It can be a tweet, it can be a Facebook post, it can be, with another graphic on Instagram, and I still get more information out of one particular article. So I can literally, for lack of a better word, milk this and have it last and have it have a longevity online in social media, but also reach more potential viewers. Because we know that, especially with things like LinkedIn, Facebook, and even Twitter, that nearly 10, maybe 10 to 13% of our audience sees our content at any given time. So timing of our information is going to be important. And if it's good content, we don't want to just, what I call one and done it. We don't want to just post it and then not refer back to it or not post it again throughout the week, especially if it's important and it's good information. We look at repurposing content a lot, and I mentioned in the article, but if I'm looking at other places and I take offline items to showcase a couple of online, one of the things that I find is this particular piece of content is chock full of wonderful graphics, wonderful photographs that we can, each of these can be a post, each of these can be an Instagram photo versus the whole thing. So the idea of having one piece of content across multiple platforms, not at the same time, we're not If you're familiar with Jackson Pollock, we don't spray social media or spray our information across and hopefully it'll look good. We want to be strategic and we want to be intentional in what we're posting because we're there to post for a reason. Here's an example of what it could look like. And keep in mind that this could look different for you based on your industry, based on your area of business, right? And it may be that you don't do things like Pinterest or a podcast, and that's great. Take what works for you, craft it in such a way that makes sense so that you can outline and make sure your content has legs, that it can have longevity. So if we do have an article, whether it's an article or a video or a podcast, whatever that, or even a quotable graphic, we can post it on our website. We can post it on LinkedIn if we use LinkedIn. We can post it on our Facebook business page and our Google page. If we do press releases and it's important, we can do press or definitely tweet it out. If we put it in newsletters or in articles, or we talk about it in a podcast, or we talk about it on a camera, on a video, we can do all that. If there are other areas, when I mentioned that the digital embassies and outposts, maybe it's a slide share, maybe it's a infographic that we want to put up on SlideShare as well as Twitter as well as Google. We want to make sure, and Instagram for that matter, that's not on here. We want to make sure that we have the information in the appropriate areas to expand our reach and expand our influence. So what are some really quick ways to do that? Because that's going to be important. I'm going to give you a few here. There are a ton more, and you probably already have it. You might have a favorite, or if you use Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, then you're good to go. If you don't, and you want to create it on the fly or online or some quick, if you're like me, I'm not necessarily graphic inclined, but Canva is a really great way that I can do that. Now, Canva does many different things. One, they do social media posts really well. They also have preset sizes for YouTube, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Pinterest, along with blog posts. So you can create your information very easily. The other thing I really like about Canva is the infographics. So it already has some presets there for you. If you notice on the slide, there are some items that are already kind of pre-made. If you decide to use that, there are some that are free, some that are paid, but it by any means it's not a lot, or you can upload your own. A good way to do this, a good way to create content and to kind of display it is your timeline photo. I call it channel art. So looking at the Saudi Gazette as an example, I've used them throughout so that they have really good content. I've been looking at their Instagram post. Looking at the timeline, kind of the top photo, that's all billboard space for you. So it could be what's coming out, whether you're showcasing a division, a new product or service, featured information, or maybe it's an event. That billboard, that timeline photo up above, you can utilize Canva. It can be updated monthly. It can be updated seasonally. It can have a call to action for you. Whether it's your website that's listed there, whether it's a photo of your building, whether it is your phone number, whatever that is, that can be right there. So that's great space that could be used wonderfully, but keep that in mind. And things like Canva do that. There's also something called Social Media Image Maker. I will tell you, I don't have personal use of this. It has come highly recommended. And what I like about this is it has other social media sites that aren't necessarily that aren't as well, I should say, known all the way. So as an example, Flickr is used in different countries more often. It's still in the social sphere, Vimeo being another one. So you'll see those on here. So they're presets for tabs and icons and channel art and post as well. You notice that it's very foundational, so it doesn't have a lot of graphics, which means that you might have to be graphically inclined, and you might have to have a little bit more creativity, but it's there for you. The other one is Pixlr. Now, before I mention Pixlr, I will mention that if you do have, if you do have an Apple product or an Apple smartphone on you, then you might be able to look at Adobe Post. That is an on-the-fly tool that you can download from the App Store. I don't believe it's on Google Play right now, but it is an easy way that you can take pictures of events or meetings, of what's going on in the office. Maybe you're building out another aspect, or you're introducing a new product and you want to take pictures of kind of what's going on behind the scenes of building out that product. That's a really great way to do it. It also is a great way that when you think about it, you're also thinking about the quotes that you're using. Those quotables, again, it's really wonderful. So Pixlr is another one I mentioned, because if you happen to have if you're more creative and you're more savvy, you'll notice the tools on the Pixlr editor are very similar to tools that you've used before. If you are more of an Instagram pro and you like the, let's say, lenses or filters that Instagram uses, you can utilize this a little bit differently in the Express version. So you've got the ability to, and I put a couple of Instagram posts as examples so you can see the filters and the textures and what the results could be for you. Again, I mentioned this as a tool. Number one, do what works for you in the way that you do business. Social media, your social presence has to work with the way that you do business, period. So on that note, how does that happen? How do we start building our social authority and our influence online? If you utilize LinkedIn, and we can use something called LinkedIn Pulse, which is basically a blog on our LinkedIn profile. You can also guest post on other information. Whether you're utilizing LinkedIn or whether you have your own website that you utilize blog posts for, you can use those visuals, create those visuals with deep captions, and that would be a blog post, or embed YouTube videos that support what it is your industry or trends, what it is you're up to. It's always good to have content and to create a content calendar and then be able to repurpose that content across social media platforms. So we want to work smarter. We want to plan to have a plan and then time it. So we want to have a social media content calendar. It can look like whatever it looks like for you. Some people keep it on a spreadsheet so that they know monthly or weekly kind of what their focus is going to be on. And it will come with the trends of the business. It will overlay with the seasons and holidays, or what else? News, whatever current events that are happening as well. That may influence and move things or set things in your calendar. So how do we do that? When I mentioned to you earlier that your job is not to post on social media, it isn't. Your job is actually to engage as the business, as the brand, to answer questions, to field questions, to go in as the business and like other pages, or engage, look at strategic partners, build relationships, establish relationships, and build relationships. And there's a few, there's a lot, but there's a few things, a few listings I've mentioned here. I have two that I'm going to bring out to you today. One's HootSuite and one's Buffer app. Now, HootSuite allows you to do 3 social media platforms for management. For most users that are new to social media management, it can seem overwhelming, but what's great about HootSuite is you can monitor your business mentions. You can engage. You can collaborate with teams. You can also post to Facebook and LinkedIn groups, which I think is important, depending on the industry, right? So it's a wonderful piece of software to use, and it can be overwhelming if you're just beginning or you are looking for an easier way to onboard yourself. And by far, I think one of the easiest ways, even though there are a lot more pictures on the slide, one of the easier ways is actually Buffer. Now, Buffer gives you 2 accounts free, and of course they have a fee version. But if you look at the lower right-hand side, you'll see that they support Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and Pinterest. Conversely, HootSuite supports Instagram. So depending on what social platforms you are or what social platforms you reside on may make the difference for you, okay, and how you post to those. What I like about Buffer and as HootSuite is they can pull in those RSS feeds or those curated feeds. They can also do some smart timing, smart scheduling. So based on the activity of your accounts, they can make recommendations on the best times to post. The analytics on Buffer are not as in-depth as it is on HootSuite, but it gives you some really good baselines, especially if you are a small business or you're the social media person and the CEO of the company. If you're doing it all, it gives you the ability to give you snapshot reports of how things are going. It's also very easy to onboard, very easy to get updated on that. So out of all this, we've established a way to look at our presence, make sure that we have our usernames. We want to be able to optimize our profile, which simply means that all information is filled out. We want to be able to have a plan or strategy and to build out our content, be it visual or video, that will always rank higher, but utilizing our approach, our body of wisdom, years of experience, our education, on top of our experience in our industry to create that unique platform. Because when we create from that, when we can visualize and convey information from that, that's what elevates our business and brand from those that do what we do. We utilize social media management tools because, again, our job is not to post on social media. Our job is to engage. There are tools for that. And then we want to look at what's working. What is working, what is not working in what we post. And does it drive traffic? Does it engage people? So be consistent in when you post. Get it on a schedule. If it's twice a day or 3 times a week, just make sure it's consistent. More often than not, the more you're in front of your clients and prospects, the better off you are. Now, I'm going to give you an example. This is an example, and I'm putting this in quotes of what an active user is on social media. And I understand that this may not work for the way that you do business. But I want to give you at least a benchmark or a line, and then you need to see for your industry or for the platforms that you are on and you've chosen to support whether this works for you. Curated content will go a long way into creating this information flow, but created content is what's going to make you last in your field. When your job is to engage, reach out to people on Twitter, comment on blog posts, take part in Facebook discussions, reach out as your Facebook page, comment on Instagram photos. That's how you get that prominence as well. It's not just posting, it is the engagement. It's that creating that relationship that you have. And if you have any questions over this, you can email me now or later on at dawn@virtualoptions.net. And there's a copy of the PDF of this presentation download at gettalk.at/GBNT. Thank you so much. I'm going to be taking questions now. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them or ask me in the chat.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn, for a very interesting presentation. Folks, we are open for the question and answers. You can either put your question in the chat box or you can raise the hand icon available on your webinar console. So we have a few questions here. Let me go straight to the first question. And the question is, how can I find out what people are saying about my brand online?
So we had mentioned socialmention.com, we had mentioned social-searcher.com. Those two, there's another one actually called Who's Talkin', which is, and I might write it in the answer here if I can, but it's WHOSTALKIN.com. All of those will give you a good baseline aside from Googling yourself, right? So whether it's on Google+, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, those are the primary ones that they cover, along with blogs, posts, or comments. That will allow you to actually see what's being said about you, if there's anything being said, and start with that for the beginnings of kind of what I call online reputation management.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn. We have another one from Ms. Fatma, and the question is, what does 30,000 foot view mean?
Great question. So the 30,000 foot view means sometimes when we go into our social media, we are so involved in this sort of what I call binocular view. You know, we only see what we see online, and it's from a however tall we are, 5'7" point of view. The 30,000 foot view means that I want you to see at the end of a day, at the end of a time, what your social presence, online presence for you, your business, your brand is going to look like. How do you want to leave people? If you were no longer here tomorrow, what would your online presence say? What would the business online presence say? What is that reputation for that business? So the 30,000 foot view is sort of looking at it from a helicopter, well, maybe not, from a plane, and taking a look at all social aspects of where we are online and where we want to focus our time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn. We have another one from Mr. Faisal, and the question is, what are some reliable online reputation management tools?
Ooh, that's good. So, okay. I don't know if this is available for everything, but there is, reputation.com, and there are a few. When you're looking at reputation, I think one of the biggest things, so there's reputation and there's review. When we have our information up on social media, we kind of get that, what I call social media optimization. When we are able to identify the search engine optimization or the hyper-local placements of our business name, in directories and listings, that could look like Google My Business or Google Places. When you list your business name and it has your reviews on there, that works into reputation, but that's more of managing reviews and review marketing, which is a little bit different. So reputation.com is one thing if you're looking for your person, because some of us we're the business, we have a business, but we are the face of the business. Look at brandyourself.com. And brandyourself.com looks for every instance of your name, personally. So on all listings, whether it be social media listings and pages and profiles, or if you've been named the news for any reason, or it could be your name and somebody else's, it's just somebody else. So Brand Yourself allows you to. There's a free and a fee version. The free version allows you 100 links to either confirm it's you, deny it's not you, or bury information. Maybe it's something negative for whatever reason, and you have what I call the opportunity to pay to bury that. But what it does is once you claim all those listings that are you, your prominence and your relevance in searches goes up. So you'll see that you rank higher, your name ranks higher every time that you go through and just go through the listings. So it'll give you a ranking, it'll give you a grade, if you will, and every couple weeks or so you'll go back out and you'll just confirm new information that's listed out there, and that way your online reputation, your personal reputation is managed a little bit. But check out reputation.com, and I want to say mention.com. I'll have to look that. I'm going to take a note. I'll have to look that up and see if I can't confirm those things so I can send them to you.
Can we go to the next question, Ms. John?
Absolutely.
Okay. We have another one, and it is, how can I know my company website represents my business in the best possible way?
Interesting. Okay, so in the best possible way, I think in most of our companies, we have a trusted, you don't have a board of advisors. You might have what I call an ad hoc board of advisors, or people that are strategic partners or business people that are in your or related industries that you have a trust relationship already built. They know you and they know your business best because you probably have some of the same clients or prospects, or you're reside in the same industry. Because I don't really think of, quote, competition as being what we traditionally think of competition. I think there's an abundance out there for everybody. That would be the first line of defense, in the way that, someone who can give you honest feedback about what works about the site, what doesn't work about the site, to go through the site as a potential client. Are you giving them information? Are you having them go through what I call a funnel? Are you having them go choose from A or B, whether they want more information or they're ready to sign up now? Whatever that is for your industry, have them go through it as a prospect. Is it easy for them to find you? Are your social media buttons there? Is there a phone number there? Is it easy enough to get a hold of you? Do you have some sort of a way of providing customer service? Is your industry or business in such a way that you need to have that? Maybe a widget that provides sort of like text, chats. Take a look at something like Zendesk to provide information like that. So I think the board of advisors, or the trusted source of competitive or strategic partners, would be a really good way to start. And the honest feedback, looking at it through the lens of a potential client, would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn. We have another one from Ms. Fatma. And the question is, what are the websites that are reliable to analyze the social media platforms, especially in Saudi Arabia?
That's a good question. Let's see. I would go to Socialbakers, might be one. I'm not sure that Sprout Social does it, but I think that would be a second one. I'm not sure that they do Saudi Arabia, but I would recommend them as well, because I know their analytics are good, and I know many people use them. But I've looked at Socialbaker, and it seems that the content and things that they provide are sound, and they have some really good what do you call it, updates and things for Saudi Arabia and other countries nearby.
Thank you, Ms. John. We have the time for one last question, and the question is, what types of positive web content can I create to offset negative content?
Okay, so What types of positive content can I create to offset negative content?
Yes.
I'd love to have that more specific, but let's talk in general terms. So anytime that you have negative content or negative things that are posted, I'm assuming it's negative things that are posted about the business or brand or something that's being said from an unhappy client or customer. It is wonderful and not wonderful at the same time. It's wonderful that you get feedback because someone took the time to write down exactly what they were unhappy with. Now, if their information was acknowledged, because we never want to ignore it, acknowledged, apologized, apologize, or just make sure that they know that they're being heard, and you take the conversation offline via email or telephone, fabulous. The information is still there in the form of review, and then we need to go ahead and seek out other reviews. If it's like a Google review, we seek out other people to write Google reviews. Other clients and people that have used us in the past, maybe strategic partners that have experience with our business. If it is a comment on a blog post or someplace that you can comment on, if it is a valid point, meet them at the valid point and make mention of remediation, because your response is in public. You never want to delete it unless it is malicious in nature and consistently malicious. Like they're looking to aim at somebody and you just happen to be it that day. If they're looking for a response, that's one thing. If they're looking for an audience, that's another thing. If they're looking for a response, you can do customer service. If they're looking for an audience, you want to make sure that you let them know that not only do you hear them, but that their criticism, if it's valid, and sometimes it isn't, if it's valid, it won't be tolerated. The only way that you're going to increase positive content or meet positive content with negative content is to make sure that, again, that your businesses are optimized on all of your social platforms, that you post regularly, that you blog post regularly. If it is a blog comment on your site, on your website, and it's not valid, you can take it down. If it is valid, I would definitely respond to it. It's very, very hard in something like if you have a product on, let's say, Amazon, for example, and somebody may or may not have used your product, may or may not have read your book, and they are posting just to post, right? Just make sure that they know that you're aware of the information, and make sure that you keep creating content, because that content has it's more current and it's more relevant, so it gets placed higher. I hope that makes sense.
I hope that answers the question for her. So thank you, Ms. Dawn, for a very interesting presentation. This brings us towards the end of this webinar. Any concluding remarks from your side before we dismiss this session?
Well, as mentioned before, as things happen, if for instance, for the last person who asked the question, if you do have things that come up for you and you need and want advice or have information or just need some clarity, please feel free to email me. That's why I'm here. If you do happen to be on LinkedIn, some of you may not, connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can also reach out to me on Facebook. So I really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Once again, I really want to thank you, Ms. Dawn, on behalf of Gulf Business Network and Training Center, for your valuable time and sharing valuable information with us. And thank you all of those who have attended this webinar. We are recording this webinar and it will be uploaded on our website. So please stay tuned to webinar.gbntc.com for updates or for downloading the soft copy of this presentation. With that, I'd like to end the webinar and you all will be automatically dismissed once this session ends. Thank you very much and you all have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Ms. Dawn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.